Rail line expansion to Kansas from Oklahoma to happen.
There was an update today on when you could start riding the train. Keith Grant joins us from the newsroom. Keith, are there any holdups right now?
Well, from the State Department of Transportation, no, there are no holdups. The Heartland Flyer will start running about in 2029. The extension would add multiple stops from Oklahoma City to Newton. Many legislators, though, asked about the project and federal funding. They worry federal spending cuts could leave them empty-handed. The federal government will likely cover most of the costs. The state says there are no pauses at this time. On top of that, legislators worry freight trains will push back on the passenger rail.
But is there capacity? Right now, the freight railroad's going to say that we're using it 80–90% of the time. There's no room for any more passenger rail.
Well, that's where the funding is needed.
Now, that funding is mainly federal once again, but also a state bill that would move $20 million to a rail line fund. Mike?
Thanks, Keith.